Hi, this is the last of our videos about creating graphical user interface or GUI items to work with a Java program. And in this lesson, we're going to go over menu bars, menus, and menu items. So let's get started. Now, I can use Java classes to create a menu, which is a list of choices. And I can use Java classes to create menu items. Those are individual choices from the menu. And I can use Java classes to add menu items to that menu. And I can display the menu either as a pop-up or as part of a menu bar across the top of the window. Now that's what we're going to be doing in this video. We're not going to be displaying a menu pop-up, but we will be displaying a menu bar across the top of the window. Now let's get some terminology down so we know what we're talking about on the screen. I've put in a screen clip here from Eclipse. I know you're all familiar with that. Now, what are menu bars, menus, and menu items? The menu bar is that list of choices along the top of the window. The file, edit, refactor, and so on. That list of things is called a menu bar. There's going to be at most one of these per window. The menus are the individual items within a menu bar. File, edit, refactor, and so on. There are possibly many of these per menu bar. All of the words that get written across that menu bar on the top of the menu, or on the top of the window. And then the menu items are the lists of things like new, open file, close, close all, that show up when you select a particular menu. So there's one menu bar, it has many menus. Each menu can have many menu items. So let's keep those terms in mind and figure out how to create them. The steps for adding a working menu bar. First, we create a menu bar. And yes, you guessed it, there is a class called JMenuBar. JMenuBar is the name of the class. I give myself a variable name. Here I've just used a very obvious variable name of menu bar. I instantiate it to be a new JMenuBar that gives me an object called menu bar that I can use to contain a bunch of menus. Now I create that bunch of menus. For each one, I create a variable or an object of type JMenu. So, say in that Eclipse example, I'd have JMenu file menu, which is a new JMenu that has the text file. That means the word file would show up as one of the choices in my menu bar. And I might do this 2 or 3 or 5 times. Next step, create all my menu items. There might be more than one. There probably is more than one. Each menu item is a JMenu item. Give yourself an object name and create it as a new JMenu item, giving it whatever the text is that you want to have show up. So if I've got a menu bar where I click on File, and once I click File, I get a drop-down list that includes New, I'd use the code shown on this screen. Okay, that makes it look like what you want. But we still need to do something like we did with buttons in our last video that makes it so that when we actually click on a menu item, something happens in our program. And we're going to add action listeners to our menu items, exactly the same way we did with buttons in the previous lesson. So for each menu item, whatever my name of the object was for the menu item, I do .add action listener, and I pass it in a reference to an object that's a type of my action listener. So remember in the last video we created a class that implemented action listener. We're going to be doing that for menu items as well. There is absolutely no difference doing it for menus and doing it for buttons. In fact, we can use the exact same action listener. And we pass in a reference to that object. Either I've already created the object, I pass it in, or I say, give me a new instance of, this would be the class that implemented the action listener. Relax, you don't have to memorize all of this. We do have a practice video in Eclipse coming up next where you can see us doing this. All right, now that the menu items have an action associated with them, we add each of our menu items to a menu. So we say, hey, menu, add this menu item. And then I'd probably do menu, add the next menu item. And menu, add the next menu item. I do that for every menu item, attaching it to whichever menus it needs to get attached to. Then I add each of my menus to the menu bar. And finally, I make the menu bar visible in the frame by doing set menu bar, passing it the object name for the menu bar. So there was sort of a symmetry in these 7 steps. Create a menu bar in step 1. Step 2, create menus. Step 3, menu items. Step 4, make the menu items do something with an action listener. And then we sort of unwind. In 5, we add the menu items to the menus. In 6, the menus to the menu bar. And in 7, make the menu bar get added to our frame window. Okay, next video up in the sequence is seeing how to do this in Java.